Nobody honestly understands the struggle I do to have to get my phone to charge. I've got a ginormous dance trophy, Zoe's book laying down, Tanya's book standing up, then another dance trophy. And that's what I needed to get my phone to charge after about an hour. Hello everyone, it is Sol, and today I decided that it's about time that I share all of my embarrassing, not all actually, I've got too many. This video would be like 5 hours long if I told you all of them. But I decided to tell you some of my embarrassing stories, which is probably an embarrassing story in itself because I'm just embarrassing myself here. What am I doing? Let's just get on with me telling the story so I can get this over and done with for your pleasure. So the first story is when it was in year 7. I first became best friends with my first best friend in high school. I'm not going to mention her name, but me, her and another one of my friends slept round hers, and I was in my pants and a baggy t-shirt, and we were doing like really weird crabs and handstands on the wall and stuff, and like doing backflips off the bed and weird things. And then I laid there and I went, I can stretch, and I kicked my leg in the air, and one of my testicular, e.g. balls, fell out of my pants, and they both saw and they both screamed, and we sat there in fits of laughter for about half an hour, and it was the most embarrassing time of my life, but it was also one of the funniest memories I ever have of high school. Never will ever forget that traumatising experience. The next one is when I was once walking to drama, and I was with 3 of my friends, Emily, Beth and Vary I think, and we were walking through this big bit with all these stairs, and Emily or Beth, I can't remember which one, tripped me up, and me being me, I thought I'd try and save myself, and I was literally just running in the air and not doing myself any favours because I looked even more of an idiot, but I was running in midair, totally missed it, face plant the floor, but didn't face plant the floor because I tried to save myself, but my face ended up being in a bin, and the bin, it was only like one of those little bins that are on the floor that are like that big, and my full-on chin was just sitting in the bin. I was just looking at it like, oh my god. Stood up, went bright red, and all the year 11s were laughing at me, and this was in year 7 or 8, so it was the worst experience of my life. I just ran off and like laughed it off because I could have cried my eyes out, I think. So the next story is when we were at the supermarket. It was me, my mum, my sister and my nanny, and we finished our shopping, went back to the car, and we opened the boot, and me and my sister was in the car. My mum put her stuff away, got in the car, I was waiting for my nanny, and she put her last bag in, and she totally forgot to put the brake on her trolley and just left the trolley sitting there. Shut up and hurry up and go past. And I looked out of my back window and I couldn't see my nanny, and I thought, where the hell is she? And then like in the distance I looked and I was like, oh my god, because what had happened, the trolley had like blown while my nanny wasn't looking and was rolling down a hill towards a very expensive sports car that was a very nice one, and my nanny was running as fast as she could to get to that car, and all me and my sister saw was my nanny like running with her little legs in the distance after her trolley where it was like flying down a hill, and that was the most hilarious time ever, and I'll never forget the picture of my nanny running after a trolley. So this was in year 10, so this was about 2 or 3 years ago, and I was wearing my shorts that I still have today. I've sewn the button back on, and I jumped in the air, and when I jumped, because I was jumping onto the sofa, like just jumping to sit down, and as I jumped in the air I kind of like breathed out too much, and the button on my trousers that was keeping my stomach in flew off, popped off, and it flew right off, and we just had it hit the walls and bounce about a bit, and we did not find that button, and it was just so embarrassing because literally the noise it made was and it was my button off my trousers that just flew off, and I was like, what the hell? And I was like, breathe, because my trousers just opened, and I was like and that was a 3 out of 10 in fun. When I was at Pleasurewood Hills, which is a theme park kind of near me that I went to once, my friends went on this big ride that I didn't want to go on, and I really needed a wee. So I walked into the toilet and stood there, and I looked around and I was like, oh, that's really weird. There's always urinals in men's toilets, but there wasn't any, and I didn't really think anything of it. And I was just like looking around, just waiting, because there was like 4 cubicles, and I was like, well, that's weird for boys' toilets because there's normally like just one, the rest are urinals. And I was like, what the hell, why is there no urinals and there's like 4 cubicles? But I didn't think anything of it. And then I had the what's it called, the chain flush, and I just stood there and was waiting for this man to come out so I could go for a wee. And then the door opened and it was a woman standing there, and we gave each other eye contact, and my mouth just dropped, and I was just like, oh my god, that's why there's no urinals, because I'm in the women's toilet. And I was standing there for about 5 minutes just waiting for any of the cubicles to be free, and oh my god, I just went bright red, and I was just like, I'm so sorry, I thought this was the men's toilet. And she went, oh, don't be sorry, love, it's alright, I've been in the men's before. And I was just like, okay, sorry, and I just quickly ran up the toilet and hid around the corner of a bush for like 10 minutes until my friends got off the ride, because I was like, oh, that was the most awkwardest and embarrassing time of my life. So this is a very funny one, which I brought up to my friend about a week ago. And we were sitting in her garden one summer, and she has one of those garden swings, and it wasn't like a really strong one with like chains, it was just like a thin piece of metal holding each side. They had like 2 bits of metal on each side, and it was quite rusty as it was. And my friend had like been swinging sideways on it, which obviously had pushed the metal too far. Then I got on it by myself, and I was just like casually swinging, like a little bit, just swing them like that. And then a whole half of the swing, the handle bit holding the swing up, broke and collapsed. I flew down to the floor on the swing because my legs were out because I was kicking out, and I just flew down to the floor laying there, and her mum came out, and she didn't like shout at me, she shouted her name, and I was like, oh my god, what do I do? And I didn't know whether I want to laugh or cry, and it was just so awkward. This one is the most painful one I think that I remember of. I was at my friend's, I'm not going to mention her name, this is in like year 5 or 6, and we were playing Wizards of Waverly Place, and I stood on the garden table, and this was their Nanny and Grandad's house on Christmas Eve it was, and I was standing on the garden table, which was like a big stone one. I stood in it and I was pretending for it to be an iceberg, because I'd recently watched Wizards of Waverly Place the movie, so obviously I want to be like Alex. And I stood on it, and I was like shaking a little bit, and I didn't feel like the stone was moving that much, so I thought, oh, this is a strong table. And then I did a little spell and jumped, but I was too far on the back, and then I flew forward because the table had tipped, but the table thing holding it up was still there, but the top that I was standing on flew off, and it was a huge heavy stone, and I was running to like get away from it because it was like spinning, flying towards me. It landed right on the back of my foot as I was running, and her nanny was in her kitchen looking out at us in the garden, and she couldn't hear, and all she could see was me holding my foot, hopping around her garden, screaming, crying. And that was a very horrible time. It was so painful, and it really hurt. My back of my shin bit hurts so much right now. The final story that I am going to tell you was at Amity Fest, and I'll try and put something in, but if I can't, then I'll just explain to you, or you can go back and watch it. But halfway through the show, Florrie, who is a singer, and she performed as like the support act of Amity Fest, and she was singing Happy Little Pill, but what I didn't know was that it was kind of a remix, and she sang My Happy Little Pill, and then it went dun 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 dun, and I just carried on singing Troy, and I was going, take me away, and I'm going to try and put it in, I'm going to put it in. And it was so awkward. Like, I just stood still and went bright red and looked around. There were like 10 people looking at me, around me, like, oh my god, do you realise what you just did? And I was like, it was a remix, so obviously that shows that I like the song, the real song, so, that was awful. And I just wanted the floor to like suck me up and just take me away and never come back, because that was awful. So, they were my embarrassing stories that I have. I've got plenty more. So if you did enjoy this, give it a thumbs up so I know to do it again. And comment any embarrassing stories that you have that I can laugh at, or anything you want, and I'll reply to them. And make sure you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to see more of me. And I will see you next week with another video. I don't know what that is yet, but I've got something. Bye.
Money ain't nothing but money. When you get to the money, it ain't nothing but money. Love ain't nothing but love. When you learn how to love, it ain't nothing but love. Party ain't nothing but a party. When you party every day, it ain't nothing but a party. Party.